And one of the great things about having a fully dynamic game engine is all of this just works.
The first Bethesda game I ever played was Oblivion. In fact, it was one of the first games I ever played in general, back when my parents first got me an Xbox 360 in middle school. And to this day, I will always remember coming out of the sewers in Oblivion as one of the greatest gaming moments of all time. It is sometimes difficult to explain what makes a Bethesda game so magical, especially for those who don't find them enjoyable. Is it the gameplay, the story, the characters, the graphics? You see, when I was a kid, I played hours upon hours of Bethesda classics like Oblivion, Morrowind, and Fallout 3. But as I got older, I fell out of love with the series that had fostered my interest with RPGs in the first place. My attention now lied in newer games like Mass Effect and the Witcher series. And with the advent of games like Skyrim and Fallout 4, my love had simply diminished, and I was now getting bored in the tutorials and putting the controller down. For me, the games had lost their magic that once so captivated me as a child. Funnily enough though, this all began to change recently. I oftentimes try to find new and interesting YouTubers that talk about gaming content and stories, and lo and behold, I found a perfect one recently, Epic Nate 315. Nate's channel is all about Fallout and Elder Scrolls lore, and digging into the games and quests and stories to learn more. After binging the channel for what felt like days, I finally remembered what it was like to love a Bethesda game again. The moments of my childhood gaming came flooding back to me, and the feelings of wonder and excitement that I had experienced as a kid were once again popping up in these videos. The sense of exploration, environmental storytelling, and wonder that I was experiencing just by watching someone else play the game was astounding. I loved learning about the lore of certain Fallout vaults, or the secrets of the Dwemer in Skyrim, and letting myself become immersed in these worlds truly garnered a much stronger appreciation for them as well. And now, for as recently as the past 2 weeks, I've sat and watched my roommate play through Skyrim on the couch, while I was working on new YouTube videos, Twitch ideas, and just generally improving my content for you guys. And this is what the catalyst for this video was. Because watching my roommate scour the world of Skyrim, traversing enormous hills and valleys as the music swells, only to discover a hidden note in a burned down house that leads to him going on a mesmerizing journey, has reignited my fiery excitement for what is next to come from Bethesda. For many, Fallout 4 and 76 are the end of the tale for Bethesda. Games that are by many accounts devoid of the magic entirely that we learned to love them for. And while they may have failed in many ways as of recent, I think now more than ever, they have a chance to do right by the fans once again. Starfield was originally announced back in E3 of 2018, and since then, we have seen and heard almost nothing, except for the leaks that happened quite literally a couple days ago. You see, these leaks show a variety of photos of a spaceman next to a ship, as well as a look at the HUD and some other concept art. And these scenes have quite literally lit my fire and excitement for Starfield again. Because while they are seemingly bland and show an older test version of the game from around 2017 to 18 potentially, I can't help but shake the excitement and hype I get thinking about what this game could potentially be just by looking at the screenshots. Looking at even just the new UI elements and seeing what looks to be gravity indicators, topographical maps, a compass, and a planet-side indicator sends my imagination into an endless realm of what Bethesda could possibly do with the exploration in this game. Because in many ways, Bethesda needs Starfield to succeed. While gamers have certainly not given up on them entirely yet, they're getting close. And now more than ever, with a new engine and the Microsoft buyout, Bethesda needs to make a game that once again reminds gamers why they are considered one of the greats. But how exactly do they do that? Well, I think it comes down to a few specific things. First off, Bethesda needs to focus on the things that made them so great in the first place. If the game truly does feature in-depth space exploration, then the planets we discover and explore need to be littered with interesting things to find and discover. Stories need to be told in ancient rock formations, traces of alien remnants found in remote locations and craters on the far side of a planet. As I fly into the atmosphere of a new planet, the swell of the game's soundtrack should be blaring through my speakers. And more than anything, Bethesda needs to maintain a strike focus on becoming more deep as opposed to becoming more wide. You can give us all the planets you want, trillions in fact. That doesn't make a great game. Look to No Man's Sky at its initial release. Because you need to give the player a reason to explore, a reason to search, and a reason to want to play. Exploring a planet's rocks to find nothing will get old quick, but in a game packed with meaningful discovery, those rock formations can just as quickly tell the story that breeds our budding imaginations. The lore in the game needs to be deep. The history of the world building, should take center stage, as it has in most Bethesda games. The story does not need to be grand or even grounded, but it does need to be meaningful and impactful. The moments in Skyrim that made it so great are when you saw something in the distance, a bandit gang attacking a small group of villagers, a new monster you had never seen, or a weird glowing artifact. Starfield, to an even greater capacity, needs to capture that sense of wonder, especially in a space setting, and invite its players to explore every inch of it. That's what she said. The problem lies in the depth of this interaction, though. You see, Bethesda has been doing most of what I've said for a good while now. I have good confidence they will create an interesting world to at least explore in and learn about. But what they do need to improve, and what could set Starfield apart, and make it one of the most memorable Bethesda games they have made yet, is if they can conquer what they have always struggled with, especially as of recently. Bethesda games have been, for the most part, as wide as an ocean, but as deep as a child's swimming pool. There are many things to explore, to do, and to learn, but when you really sit back and think about it, a lot of your interactions come down to meaningless filler. What Bethesda can do to take Starfield to the next level is focus on what I like to call world believability and interaction. Things in Starfield need to make sense, not necessarily from the vantage point of our existence, but from that of the game's. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. In the world of Skyrim, the land is wrought with a large amount of magic users and spells. And from almost the very beginning of the game, you can begin wielding magic and using it to your advantage. And at first, this seems great. Magic is extremely interesting, and hell, firing a fireball out of your hands at your opponent never isn't satisfying. But the interaction in Skyrim really stops there. The game fails to consider the ramifications of such an ability. If firing a giant fireball out of your hands is so easy for such a large amount of people in the world of Skyrim, would that not have an enormous effect on its residents? Towns and guards would need anti-magic protection at all times. Prisoners would either need to be chained or take anti-magic potions at all times. That way they could not escape by simply lighting the entire prison on fire the second you put them in there. Blacksmiths' processes of smelting down ore could instead be contracted to higher level mages that could concentrate their power to do the refining process for them. You see, in Skyrim, being able to shoot a fireball is cool, but once that effect wears off, you're left with an addition that quite literally ruins the believability and interaction of the world. And as you begin to garner more and more spells, this effect is only exacerbated. Suddenly, the very foundations of the game, the economy, politics, policing, make no sense in the context of all of the spells that could easily solve many problems immediately or render other customs defunct. However, a lot of you may argue that none of that even matters. Skyrim is fun because you can shoot fireballs out of your hand, not because the socioeconomic ramifications of that are so well thought out. But you see, this is exactly the steps Starfield could make to be so great. The game is allegedly trying to hit the high sci-fi market, which for those of you who don't know is essentially sci-fi that is highly correlated to our real world and how physics interact here, meaning no traveling faster than light, etc. And this is potentially the perfect catalyst for the next evolution of Bethesda. If they can manage to make a game that has the wonder and excitement of Skyrim, but with a more refined vision of the world, truly the universe and how it was built, they have in their hands the potential to make a game that is not only as wide as the universe, but as deep as our minds. The UI elements that we have seen so far are promising, like gravity, and hopefully spaceships and characters will be able to adhere to rules that are established within the game. If faster than light travel is not possible, force us to go into cryosleep for extended periods of time to reach new locations. And when we do reach these locations, if we have been there before, have things change with time. Make the rules of the game matter. That way, in the eyes of the players, they have more impact. Imagine a Bethesda game with the quests and storylines that we have come to love, but with a deeper dedication to the things that really matter, to the rules of the universe and the ramifications that all these systems could have. Give the players not only the ability to go on cool adventures, but to craft their own adventures through your own rule sets as well. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I want to make more deep dive videos talking about this subject with Starfield specifically, as I think it's a very interesting and potentially big game coming from Bethesda soon. But I potentially made this video a little bit convoluted and up in the air, and that's kind of where Starfield stands currently as well, as we haven't gotten any true gameplay or overall information about the game coming out besides these alleged leaks. But it will be interesting to see in the coming months and years where this game really turns out to be. Because for me, Bethesda does so much right and wrong. They always nailed that sense of exploration and the wonder of a new world that no game really has been able to ever replicate. But I would be lying if I didn't say games like Mass Effect, The Witcher, and Death Stranding didn't have much more engaging stories and characters, with more fleshed out and considered worlds. It's high time Bethesda does what they used to and revolutionize an industry. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll see you next time.